Good evening, Shortcuts. Stephen here. This is video one for the Shortcuts list that will go out this Wednesday, Sydney time at 9 p.m. sharp. If you would like to be on the list, drop me an email at shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. This list is a soul list, and this is a really special soul list in that last week I had the first tranche of records from the box of blues records that I got in the UK, and this time it is the equivalent soul box. So you're going to see some really interesting and diverse soul records over the next little while. I must admit, these two boxes have been full of pleasure for me, and a whole bunch of them have made their way onto my shelves. But there were some duplicates, and there are some things I've already got. So you're going to, I hope, find this interesting. So nearly all of these are either US or UK first presses. And I will let you know as we go what there is and what the condition is. I've already started to get some feedback from some of you who grabbed the blues records from me, and also some from the soul box. So some people came to my garage this week and grabbed some Otis Redding and various other things, and I've been getting incredible feedback. These records are in great shape. They clearly belong to a collection from someone who had just an unbelievable interest in this and had a crazy diverse range of interests, as you're about to find out. All right. So one of the things that that you may have noticed has been going on over the last while is the Olympics, and it has been incredible to watch how Australia's female athletes have just been on a tear and just been brilliant to watch. And as I was going through this list, I realized this is a very female-dominated list with some legendary singers and maybe some that you don't know. So it's kind of appropriate that I've got my Dolly t-shirt on today. I'm going to start with two records from Nina Simone, and particularly this one. This is Nuff Said. Now, I'm just going to pair to my list. This is the UK first press from 1969, and it is in mono. And because of that, I'm just going to show you a couple of things. So you can see there, it's still got the original label, made in Great Britain, or the original inner. And it's on the orange RCA label. And you can see there, side 2 mono in magnificent condition. I've spoken about this record before, but for those of you who maybe didn't listen to that video, I am going to just explain a little bit about this record, because there's a wonderful piece on the back here that talks about what this is. So this was released in 1969, and it is notable for a few things. It's mostly live. There's a couple of bits that sound kind of like it might be in the studio, and she had a kind of a history of mixing live and studio together. There's a wonderful photo on the back of her walking toward the stage, and I do love this portrait on the front. But why is this record so, I guess, notable is that this concert was recorded a few days after the assassination of Martin Luther King. And the opening track on side 2 is called Why the King of Love is Dead. And this was a song written on the day of the concert by her bass player. I think his name is Billy Watt. And she decided to play. She decided to play the song at the concert, and she kind of sings this. Actually, it wasn't Billy Watt; it was Gene Taylor. Her present program, presented to a capacity audience at Westbury, Long Island, on the evening following the murder of Dr. Martin Luther King, is highlighted by a song written upon that day by Gene Taylor, Nina's bass player. Why the King of Love is Dead has the immediacy of a headline, the poignancy of tears for a loved one, and the relevance of a siren in the night, which is a wonderful description. The other song that I love on this record is The Backlash Blues. If you don't know it, give that a listen. These early UK mono presses are utterly fantastic, by the way. I've been listening to a bunch of them. Really, really good. The second Nina record is this one, Baltimore. Now, this one was almost exactly 10 years later after she'd had a 4-year hiatus from recording, which is quite unusual for her. It has a beautiful gatefold. Now, this record is the US first press from 1978. I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So it's the only record, I think the only record she recorded for the City label, or CTI label. It's really, really good. It's the last record, really the last of her notable records. She really didn't record much after this. And it's kind of joyous in places, but like all Nina Simone records, very diverse choices of songs, but dominated by that just extraordinary voice. This is as good a copy for a first press as you're ever going to see. It is absolutely immaculate. So how do you follow Nina? Well, you follow Nina with a singer that I think is every bit Nina's equal. And for me personally, I think I like this singer more. This is Ann Peebles, and the album is called Tellin' It. Now, this is the record that Ann Peebles released just after her breakthrough hit, I Can't Stand the Rain, which I think may have won her a Grammy. I can't remember whether she won or whether she was just nominated, but was notable because John Lennon called it his favourite song of all time. And let's just say John Lennon had a little bit of a notion of Ann Peebles and made it known that he would like to, misbehave with Miss Peebles, and she wasn't best pleased. She's a strong woman. But not just that, the most deliciously husky voice. And she found her way, and I'm just going to double check, I'm pretty sure this is a US first press, to High Records with Willie Mitchell, which meant that she had this wonderful backing band and some great songwriters. And so all the way through this record, you get these slinky grooves, and her voice, it is like she finds the melody in between the lines. And I find myself singing along and just smiling at what she's doing. She does not oversing. She is not a Whitney Houston. She is not something like that. But I tell you, that run of records, that I think this is the final one, in fact, of Ann Peebles on High Records, is as good as it gets in the 70s. What's interesting as well, you see these little clips. They used to clip these records when they were imports. And I'm not quite sure what there was a tax break or something. Someone out there might know it more than me. But when these records were imported into the UK, they often had this little chunk taken out. It's in really nice condition, other than a little bit of ring wear here. US records from this period had much higher quality sleeves in many ways than UK records. UK records tended to have those kind of cling filmy type stuff over the top. Just didn't work. But these US presses are wonderful. I love this record. Definitely my favorite in the list. All right, let's move on to the mighty Jackie Moore. Now you can see this time they clipped the corner of this one. Now Jackie Moore, Sweet Charlie Babe. This is a UK press from 1973. Jackie Moore being a big voice, very exuberant. And this is where you can kind of hear in places how soul music would, in a few years' time, morph into this wonderful disco period. But there are some songs on here that I want to talk to you about that I think are as good as any recorded in the 70s. In particular, track 3, which is odd for it to be this particular place, but track 3 of side 2 is called Precious Precious. And there's Jackie. Give that a listen. Oh my gosh, it is an amazing song. The opening and title track, Sweet Charlie Babe, you will hear that kind of fun disco vibe coming, a little bit more danceable. This was recorded on Atlantic Records, and she didn't maybe take off the way that some others did at this time. But it's a really cool record, really well regarded, really well reviewed. And this is the UK first press from 1973. Jackie Moore's Sweet Charlie Babe. We're going to keep the female legend vibe going. Mavis Staples. What a voice. You all know how much I love the Staples sisters, the Staples singers. And I could kind of took it as a personal affront that Swing Low, Sweet Chariot from last year's list was not picked up by anyone because it is so brilliant. But this movie, a piece of the action, was notable at the time for the cast. Sidney Poitier, Bill Crosby, and James Earl Jones. There's some screenshots from the movie. But the soundtrack were a series of Mavis Staples songs written and produced by Curtis Mayfield. And you can tell the funk is high with this, I can tell you. Chocolate City, Of Whom Shall I Be Afraid? Is pretty interesting. Coochie Coochie Coochie. Produced and arranged by Curtis Mayfield. Recorded in Chicago, Illinois, and a bunch of session musicians who were kind of part of that Chicago scene contributed to this. It's a lot of fun. If you love Mavis Staples. Now, this is a US first press from 1977. And it still has the inner with all the lyrics in perfect condition. As I said, these soul and blues boxes. So cool. I'm just going to see. All right. We're going to keep the female vibe going with Marlena Shaw. Now, Marlena Shaw was one of the great jazz soul singers. Started out jazz and then made a record which is on my holy grail list, The Spice of Life. I have never been able to find a good copy at an affordable price. It is an absolute holy grail of mine, top 3. If any of you out there have it, let me know where you got it and what you think of it. But this is Marlena when she'd kind of transitioned into soul and was really embracing that kind of whole soul disco vibe as well. My favorite song on this, I gave it a spin earlier, is called "Touch Me in the Morning." Give it a listen. It's an interesting interpretation of that lyric, but interestingly, the whole first side kind of blends into one song. Yeah, you can see here. This is also notable because it is a white label promo of the record, and if you can see, they're on side. The tracks kind of blend into each other. It is hard to find things like this. What true white label promo? Look, nothing else on it of a Marlena Shaw record. That is pretty amazing. And there you can see the not for sale promo sticker. Now they used to put those on in Aussie records, and but the record inside would still be kind of the same. And this, I'm just looking. This is a UK 1979 first press white label promo. That is pretty cool. I am delighted with everything that's in this. It is so great. All right, I'm going to continue on with the soul singer vibe. This could I think it's probably just behind Ann Peebles on the list of my personal favorite. And this is Gwen McCrae. Now this one, when was this one released? 1973 UK first press. And this one's on an unusual label. You can see where it says made in England. Still got the original inner. This one's on the President label, which is not one that I'm aware of, and I don't think there are any other songs on this or any other records on this label in the box. This to me is like an even rawer sounding Ann Peebles. Now Ann Peebles had Willie Mitchell and this phenomenal backing band in High Records. Gwen McCrae is cut from similar cloth, but the musicianship is rawer, not as uber produced. There are still horns. There's still that sweaty kind of I'm in a club vibe, which I really like. In other countries, this record actually had a title here called "For Your Love," which is the opening track on side 2, and that was actually a pretty big hit. And it's real grimy, sweaty soul groove. There she is on the back, amazing. Yeah, this one is thankfully this one has a double in the box because there's no way I was letting this one go. 74. This is really good, and the guitar playing on this one is wonderful as well. All right, I got the final record from our 6 or 7 amazing women from the 70s is this. This is Esther Phillips, and the record's called You've Come a Long Way, Baby. Now, in the box, there are about 10 Esther Phillips records, and the only Esther Phillips record that I knew was a record called Black Eyed Blues, where the title track is a song that I play quite regularly when people come over to listen. It's a 7 or 8 minute, absolutely heartbreaking, crazy moving song about domestic violence, but done in this amazingly sweaty groove. She sings incredible. Her voice is bonkers good. And this is the first record that she did after leaving Kudu. But she took the producer and songwriter with her, who had an amazing name, Alfred Pee Wee Ellis. And so they've maintained this sweaty, groovy sound. There's a picture of her as a younger kid. There are some blogs out there talking about this record and just raving about it. It's still got the original inner. I'll show you the record on the Mercury label. And this one is a US first press from 1977 in fantastic condition. Highly recommend Esther Phillips. Yeah, there we have it. All right, I've got a few more from the Soul Box just to finish off. I'm going to go through these a little bit quicker because you've heard me talking about Johnny Taylor before. Johnny Taylor his nickname was the Philosopher of Soul, and he was one of the biggest stars of the 70s on one of my favorite labels, the Stax label. Now, both of these, I'm just going to double check. One's a UK first press and one is a US first press. This one is the US first press, which is tailored in silk. An amazing record. If you don't know Johnny Taylor, he's been inducted into the Rock and Roll is it Hall of Jazz and Blues, or not? Maybe it's the Hall of Jazz and Blues, but he is an unbelievable singer-songwriter. These records are amazing. This one's probably even better. This is Who's Making Love. This is the UK first press from 1969. So you can see the little Made in England and the original yellow Stax label. Who's Making Love was probably his biggest hit. The whole thing is as good as anything Otis Redding ever did. If you don't know this record, just trust me, it's that good. All right, now we've got how many have we got? 4 left. We have Junior Walker and the All Stars, a 2 LP anthology. This is UK first press from 1980. Junior Walker was saxophonist and soul singer. Started off in the 60s with songs like Shotgun, Do the Boomerang, I'm a Road Runner, and then went all the way through 60s into the 70s with songs like Pucker Up Buttercup and a bunch of others. And so this is, there we go, 2 LP compilation of his stuff. Legend. Peace and Understanding. It's Too Hard to Find is another one of my favourites. Now there's one here that is very rare indeed. Now this is Calvin Scott. He only ever released one album, and you'll see what label it's on now. It's on the Stax label. Calvin Scott, I'm Not Blind, I Just Can't See. Clipped as an import. And there are the musicians at the back. And there are all the songs and lyrics. The sleeve is fantastic. He was a member of Clarence Carter's band and went off on his own to make this record. Didn't sell particularly well, therefore only making one. And I don't think he had much of a career after this, but that's nothing to say for this record. This more than any other here, and this kind of will give it away, reminds me of Ray Charles. It's piano playing more than guitar and horns. Really cool rhythm section. Can I Get a Witness? Some cover versions, Sweet 16. Yeah. Really, really fun and super rare, this one. Talking about piano players, this is one of my favourite piano players. This is Billy Stewart, and this record's called The Golden Decade. Now, Billy Stewart was a pretty big dude. In fact, I don't know if there's any photographs here that I can show, but you can look up some photographs. He recorded on the Chess label, and this compilation of the songs that he made during the late 60s. Now, beloved particularly, and kind of resurrected to some extent by Quentin Tarantino, who used his track Summertime on the soundtrack to his most recent movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And in fact, Summertime is the opening track of this record. My favourite Billy Stewart song, though, is Sitting in the Park. Give that a listen if you haven't before. And yeah, great record. And finally, I had to do it. I had to put one disco record on the list. I couldn't have chosen a bigger one, a better one, maybe one of the greatest disco records of all time. Step 2 by Sylvester. I only have to say one thing. The opening track on this song is You Make Me Feel Mighty Real, which is pretty amazing. This is an unusual one. This is a Portuguese first press from 1978. You don't see many of those around. The second track on this album, Dance Disco Heat, I think is probably even better. And, Sylvester's kind of androgynous singing style and incredibly flamboyant stage presence, didn't really disguise that, he was gay, and, he died of AIDS in the early 80s. But left behind some legendary records, of which Step 2 is one. There you have it. A selection from the UK Soul Box. It's actually filled with quite a few US presses, this one, and a press in Portugal. If you would like to be on the price list for this, which will go out Wednesday evening, the 14th at 9 p.m. Sydney time, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. If you liked what you heard, if you thought there was anything interesting, drop me a line, leave me a comment. Subscribe, all those fun things. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Bye.